star date. It's 43992.6. So it's Thursday, June 2nd, 2366, 7:09 in the morning. So, and I love that this thing that we use also has the seconds, so it's 7:09 and 25 seconds, which is hilarious. So it's been a couple days since they went down there and there was just the crater. We have Admiral Hansen and Lieutenant Commander Shelby of Starfleet Tactical who have showed up, and they're going to investigate the disappearance of the New Providence colony. We find out there were 900 colonists, and there are no signs at all of them. And I made a note that George Murdoch, who plays Admiral Hansen, he previously appeared in Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, as God.
Oh, I didn't realize that was the same actor. Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I was like, all right. So then...
so correct me if I'm wrong, but Lieutenant Commander Shelby, she's appeared in a couple of episodes, right? Like, this isn't her only appearance?
No, this is her only appearance.
Really?
This is her only appearance.
You know, honestly, she strikes such a memorable character that when they said that, like, this character was boarding, I was like, oh, this one's here. And it's like, she's just so, she plays this so memorable. I honestly thought that she was like a recurring character.
What's funny is she said the hardest part was learning all that jargon because she didn't understand what any of it meant. Whereas when you're acting, you usually can understand, you know, what the context is and you know what it means. So she was like saying that it was like she had to learn it in a foreign language she didn't know. So sorry, Rebekah, she didn't like the technobabble.
Oh, well, that's right. I like it enough for both of us.
I mean, you do. I think she handled it very well. And I didn't know that until I was reading all this stuff that she was not sure with it.
Oh, wow.
We're in the ready room. Riker, Picard, Hansen, and then in my notes I wrote Mbop because Hansen.
Because it's Hansen. He's there. He's one of those guys. Great grandson.
Yes. And Shelby are all talking about who or what might have destroyed the colony. Hansen and Shelby think it's probably the Borg, even though they're not 100% certain, but Riker had made his report from beaming down to the surface, and he also thought it was the Borg because it was familiar. Trenches they saw were familiar from before when they had seen the Borg. We find out Shelby took over tactical analysis only 6 months prior to this star date, 43992.6. Apparently, she gets things done. Like, she is on it. She is climbing up that ladder, and she doesn't care whose hands she's stepping on to get there. So, you know, they were kind of unsure, I think, about if it was the Borg because it was so far away from where they last encountered them. And I wrote 7,000 light years, but I felt like it was more than that. Does that sound right?
I think it is 7,000.
Okay.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, 7,000 light years is pretty...
I honestly
far.
can't remember how far a light year is, so...
A light year is... Oh, yeah. I used to know it. Keep talking. I'm going to Google it.
A light year is very, very far.
It is, because it's how far light travels in a year, and it travels really fast. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
I can't remember what the speed of light is at the moment, so that's fine. Picard thinks they have some sort of superior technology if it is the Borg, and they're kind of worried about it. And Shelby says she wants to go to the colony because she wants to she wants to make sure that she's right, that it's the Borg, take some tests. And Riker's like, you got to wait until the morning. It's about to get dark there. We're going to go. We'll be there at 500 hours or whatever time he says. I can't remember what time he says they're going.
I think he said 0500.
Yeah, okay. I thought I remembered that right, but I wasn't sure. And they go to leave because Picard's like, Riker, take her to her quarters or whatever. And, as he's leaving, he tells Hansen that they've got their poker game and there's always a seat for him. And, Hansen declines. But he makes sure to mention that Shelby might have played a game or two, So far, Riker is not necessarily that he's not impressed with her, but you can tell that he's kind of like not sure about her, but not sure like in the way of like thinking that she might do something bad, but just kind of like he can tell there's going to be some friction or something.
Right, but like at the same time, this is like the first example of, I think, one of the biggest hypocritical storylines in this episode. And excuse me, he invites the Admiral to join their poker game in front of Shelby.
Yeah.
Like, so first of all, that's kind of rude. And so if you didn't want her to know about it, like, don't mention it in front of her.
Yeah.
That's number one. And then going forward, and I know that we'll talk about this more, there's a lot of focus on this in this particular episode about how ambitious Shelby is and how that's a bad thing.
Well, yeah, how to Riker he is acting like it's a bad thing, even though he was the exact same way. It's like...
Yeah, so the show is telling us, the viewers, that ambition in Riker is okay and good, but ambition in Shelby is bad. I think a lot of that, and don't get me wrong, we're going to talk about all the stuff that she does that's wrong. Like, she does do things that are outside of, like, the protocol that you should do, but at the same time, they keep mentioning how ambitious she is as a negative quality. And so I think this is a case of the show telling you shouldn't like her because she's ambitious. I think that speaks to an ongoing problem in a lot of things, but in Trek, as we're talking about, of how they write women characters. It's okay for Riker to be, as ambitious as he wants, but when Shelby's ambitious, oh boy, howdy, that's a problem.
Well, I didn't necessarily see it going that far, because I feel like to Admiral Hansen, like, it is a good thing that she's ambitious. He's glad that somebody wants to move up and take all their jobs once they've retired. Like, he's totally cool with that, because he feels like it's going to be in good hands, because not only is she ambitious, but she's good. It's right, Riker is the one that's like, but I feel like it's not necessarily because she's a woman, even though I know people do see it that way. It's to Riker, it's because he, like when you don't get along with people who are like you sometimes, because you see all the annoying things in them that you do, and then it rubs you the wrong way. Like, that's how I took it.
Mm-hmm. I get that. I'm also speaking from a place of having been in this fandom long enough that there are a lot of people who will list Shelby as like one of the worst characters.
Yeah.
And I think that's a shame, because
her hairdo is one of the worst.
No, her hairdo is atrocious.
She
should get a new hairdresser. But like, the other thing is, to your point about the Admiral Hansen praising her, he does it in the same breath as basically objectifying her, because he says, Picard says to him, "Seems like you really admire her," and he's like, "Just an old man's fancy." Yeah, and I was like,
he did
gross.
Say that.
Yeah, that's some casual sexism. #me too right there.
Yeah, this is Time's Up, Me Too, stuff happening. So it's like, yeah, he admires her, but it's more based on how he looks at her sexually. So I feel like this was a missed opportunity to do more with this character, because this is literally the only 2 episodes we see Commander Shelby, like, in the entire franchise. And she's such a good character. She's such a great female character. I would have loved to see more of her. I would have loved for her to do more in the show, and then we never see her again. It's very frustrating.
Well, yeah, because I feel like with her, it's like how I feel about Dr. Pulaski, how she was first written as a person, not like, oh, this is a woman, she's just going to be a mother or a mother figure, or, you know what I mean? Like, sort of tropes that Troy and Beverly kind of get pushed into sometimes, But she was only here for these 2 episodes. It's like, I want to see her, like, I want to see her being a smart aleck to Riker all the time. Because he deserves it a lot. Like...
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so there you go, and, like I said, he didn't invite her. I guess you could say he didn't invite Picard either, but there's supposed to be a standing invitation to Picard. I guess inviting Shelby wouldn't help him. captain job or whatever that we're about to find out that Picard doesn't know about. The Admiral's like, oh, she'd make you a one hell of a first officer, and Picard's like, I have a hell of a first officer. And this is when he finds out that Riker's been offered the captain position on the Melbourne, and he's just like, oh, okay, well. Hansen describes Shelby as impressive, and also old man fancy or whatever.
I know, it's so gross. And this is all stuff I never picked up on when I was a kid, because I remember watching this as a kid. This came out in 1990. I would have been 12, about 13, and I remember thinking like, ugh, Shelby's terrible. Like, oh, yeah. What a terrible character. And then rewatching this series as an adult, and I've watched both these episodes many times before tonight. I just remember thinking like, man, I really missed, like, the show was telling me to feel a certain way about Shelby, and it worked, because as a kid I did feel that way, but as an adult with different eyes, I look at her character very differently. Well,
and even if, as when you were a kid, if the show wasn't pushing it that far for you to hate her, the culture was like that at that time. Yes. Anyway, so that would have made it more, seem more like, oh, well, women don't talk like that to people. Women don't, they just let things happen. They take care of people. They don't put their career ahead of their life or whatever. Kind of like the whole, like, because 1990, that was right out of that yuppie 80s stage where it was like some people were mad because women were like more women were going back into the workplace and trying to have ambition, and then other people were excited about it and were wanting them to do this, so it was still kind of a rough time in our culture, as if it's not now, but we don't want to get into that right now.
No, but it's true. But she was so unlike the other women who were on this show, because if you even think about Dr. Crusher, it's like, didn't she leave Starfleet when she had Wesley, and she really only rejoined like after her husband passed away? And then Deanna Troi, she's like a non-officer serving aboard this ship, and she doesn't even seem to try to be an officer until much later. Right. Or like one of the captains like basically makes her wear a uniform at that point, but she's still like not, like, she went through Starfleet Academy, but she's basically like a non-serving officer. And neither of them seem to show much ambition. And so I think to see this woman come into the show and show such ambition that's so brazen, really, is to just basically tell Riker flat out, I want your job. Yeah. You don't see it. You really don't.
Well, like with Beverly, like we don't even find out till later, really, that she has gone through. I never noticed it before. I mean, I think maybe she'd been on the bridge before, like before Troy went through all of the testing so that she could, be a bridge commander or whatever. And I think maybe you see her, because I've watched so much all together in a row. I'm sorry, you guys, it's all blurring together. But like, I didn't even like realize that, oh, that was something like a course basically they had to take. I didn't know that. I just thought, well, she's got a bunch of gold things on her collar. She can be on the bridge.
Right.
she can be in command. She can be their designated survivor or whatever.
Designated survivor.
She had some good stories, but most of the time it was not like this. Like, she's just tagging along sometimes, and it's
because most of the women are defined, and it's not just Star Trek. This is true of all the TV and the media that we were getting around this time. Women were being defined by the men in their lives, right? So Beverly Crusher is not so much. She's defined by that she's Jack Crusher's wife. She's Wesley's mother. Mom, she's Picard's old, like, sort of flame. And then even with Deanna Troi, she's Riker's ex. Like, when we meet these women, they are defined by other men who they are. The only one that isn't is Dr. Pulaski. She doesn't come on board. And even then, we do get a throwaway line how she used to how she was an old flame of Riker's father.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean...
Oh, yeah. Like, that is like... It's like, he is defined